This ball, let's go.
Get ready for Beyond the Arc, the show that eats, sleeps, and breathes the hardwood. Featuring two guys who know how to move on the court.
You got a defender in your way, you take him to the left, you take him back to the right, and he's falling back, and you just jay right in his face. And then you look at him. And then you say what?
A couple of basketball junkies who shine the spotlight on everyone in the world of hoops.
I got game, she got game, we got game, they got game, he got game.
It's the coach, Bryan Fulford.
My entire adult life, I've never used the expression game face.
And the scout, Steve Barnhart from HardwoodHoopsCentral.com.
That boy is good.
Gentlemen, the court is yours.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Beyond the Arc presented by TNT Elite Hoops. Live in the 740 The Game studios in Orlando, Florida and the iHeartRadio network. My name is Bryan Fulford and I'm joined by my partner in the backcourt, Steve Barnhart from HardwoodHoopsCentral.com. Steve, got another big night for us tonight.
Yes,
How you doing, my friend?
Not too bad, sir. How are you?
Doing well.
Good.
Let's give the people, we definitely want you to respond and interact with us in the variants of social media outlets that we have in front of us.
And those would be Twitter and Facebook. Twitter at BTA Hoops. And if you want to search for us on Facebook, it's searching for Beyond the Arc Podcast.
Bam, bingo.
See?
And we've also got previous versions of our show, some of our podcasts that you can listen to, actually even earlier versions of this show.
Yep.
On Stitcher, SoundCloud,
and YouTube.
And, of course, our blogtalkradio.com / Beyond the Arc is home to our podcast.
All over the place.
All right, we got a big show for you tonight. We're going to get into talking a little bit about USA basketball, also get into the newly released 2015-16 NBA schedule.
Yep.
We've also got a guest coming up later in the show in the second hour. Kurt Helin from ProBasketballTalk.com is going to join us. What's that? I got it right, Helin.
No. You said second hour. I wish.
I wish a second hour. Second segment.
That's why I was looking at you like,
okay, good.
You know something I don't?
Good catch. And some news nuggets to close us out. So let's get right into our opening tip. And what better way to start? We'll start talking USA basketball. Right now, currently in Las Vegas with their mini camp.
Yep.
And this, of course, is the mandated you must be here in order to have a shot at being on the 2016 Olympic roster in Rio.
For the most part.
And we've already seen some guys who said, nah, I'm good. I got cut last year. Don't want to make this team.
It wasn't guys. It was a guy.
And you also had a guy, Derrick Rose, who said he didn't want to play.
Well, that makes sense.
The
other guy was butthurt.
Damian Lillard is who Steve's talking about.
There you go.
But it's quite an interesting list, and I mean, there's so many things that we can go into. So I know we want to get into it. We got a lot of stuff to go through, and we'll get a chance to even delve into this with Kurt as well. But I think the biggest thing when you start looking at this, the first thing you got to do is you want to start putting together the roster.
Yep.
I mean, it's almost like a fantasy draft. If you look at some of the names. And there's what, 30 something guys, 38, 34 guys. Yep. So there's plenty of guys here, plenty of all-star talent, MVP talent here, and you can go through this entire list. And so I know Steve and I kind of went through our 12. And when you look at this, you start breaking down who's your 12. Before we do that, let's just get into some of the interesting storylines because we'll get through this quickly. First off, let's talk about the LeBron factor. One of the biggest stories is whether LeBron should play or whether LeBron should not play. Your thoughts just in general about LeBron playing versus not playing?
Well, I mean, you know what? He doesn't necessarily have to play, but I think he should, just for the simple fact that if you think about LeBron James, he's a guy that wants to represent his country. He's made that very clear over the time that he spent with USA basketball. And he just seems, he's just a basketball junkie. He's 30 years old. I understand, he's getting up there in age. But at the same point in time, if the guy wants to play and it's a chance to go to Rio, why not?
LeBron has logged nearly 33,769 regular season minutes, almost 7,500 playoff minutes. So he's upwards of he's actually logged more minutes regular season, playoff, and international, then Magic, Allen Iverson, Steve Nash, Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, just some of the names that he's logged a lot of minutes.
Right. And those are guys, too, that, suffered injuries late in their career. So that's one thing to kind of keep an eye on.
He's a 3-time Olympian.
Yep.
Personally, there's nothing for LeBron to prove. I really don't even feel like he needs to be on this roster. I get he's the best player in the world.
Kevin Durant would have a problem with that, but go ahead.
You called him the best player in the world.
I'm just saying.
I would say he is.
He just recently came out. Kevin Durant just recently came out and said he's the best player in the world.
Get out of here.
He did.
Okay.
That's why I said that.
Oh, wow. I'm okay. So, yeah, I guess I just have this thing. LeBron, here's a 3-time Olympian. He was part of the Redeem team in 2008. The team of Dwight Howard, CP3, and Carmelo.
Right.
All of them are at this mini camp. All of them sort of putting in their time to sort of say, "Hey, Coach K, we might be willing to go one last go around." I'm of the thought that I think there ought to be an age limit. At this point, put a 30-year-old age limit on this thing, because it's taken away from the opportunity of some of the younger guys who I know you have some thoughts about and have some likes about. But if you if you have LeBron, Carmelo, Chris Paul, all of whom will be anywhere from 31 to 32 years old next year,
right?
It's taken away from some guys who, really, I think could play and do well. I think we're that deep and loaded for a Team USA roster.
Of course.
That we don't, Carmelo, hey, Carmelo, thank you. You've been part of the international team from 06 to 12, and you play great.
He's been excellent.
You play great, but we don't need you. Chris Paul, you're great, but we really don't need you because there are a gluttony of good point guards behind you.
These days, yes. Look, I'm of the mindset that, there's even reports out now that are saying guys like Kobe are still in consideration. And I'm just like, I'm good on that. Guys like Kobe, Carmelo, Dwight Howard, even Chris Paul. I'm not even a fan of even LaMarcus Aldridge being on this team. And these are all, 4 of those 5 guys have a legit shot.
You mentioned Kobe, and there was also he was not at this mini camp.
No.
There was even a mention of Andre Iguodala.
Right, and I'm fine with Andre. I actually am fine with Andre. If they wanted him on the team, I'm good with that.
Okay, at what point does this become not so much about country and prestige and become sort of greedy? I can't find a better word for it, but it feels a little greedy.
How can you be Olympic greedy?
How can you be Olympic greedy?
Especially if somebody else is picking you.
By making yourself eligible.
It's not, but that doesn't necessarily mean the coaches have to pick you.
But and one of the things that we got into, and we know that with this core group, Coach K, he loves LeBron, Carmelo, CP3, guys. He used those key words in a lot of quotes. Trust.
Right.
And so I have no doubt, Steve, that if one of those 3 guys says I'm in, all 3 are in because they're buddy-buddy.
Right.
And that's going to take away 3 spots from some other guys.
Yeah. I'm of the mindset where I'd rather see, and now I think LeBron should be there. I'm on that side of the fence that says he should be there. The best player in the world should be playing in the Olympics. I'm sorry. Now, Kevin Durant will say what he wants. Anthony Davis will say what he wants. So maybe, quote unquote, to other guys, the best player still in the world still is in the Olympics. But hands down, LeBron, being the guy and has been for quite some time now, should be in the Olympics.
Move over to KD. Now, here's a guy who he says he's the best player in the world, but I still have a sort of a nasty taste in my mouth from the way he left the 2014 squad. Obviously, the injury, Paul George, and I think he
got freaked out.
He did.
So a lot of those guys did at the time.
He did. But I mean, the other guys went and played. I felt like that was the opportunity for Durant to sort of be the leader, to take over this whole international thing where whether LeBron comes back is not even the big story. Mm-hmm. If KD plays in that tournament, he cements himself as the leader of this team, 2016, which right now is in jeopardy if those three guys we previously talked about go in. Mm-hmm. And now he's even coming off of the foot injury, which if I'm Oklahoma City, I might be, might be a little nervous about.
Kevin Durant is too much of a competitor to say I'm not going to, and this is an opportunity for him to say, okay, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to play. And you got to think about this, Brian. This is not going to be during the season or before the season. It's basically just, a mini camp. So it's basically a mini camp before he has camp with Oklahoma City. So it doesn't really hurt to even show up to this.
Right. Well,
it doesn't hurt to even be on the team.
I don't know. Maybe some people have a.
Let me tell you something. If he goes injury free this season, and let's say Oklahoma City becomes one of the top 2 or 3 best teams in the West, like they're projected to possibly be, with him back,
he'll play.
What my point is, you'll feel differently.
You'll feel okay. All right. Okay. So let's get into the roster and let's sort of throw our predictions out there. Okay. Now, when I did this, I did 2 different rosters. I did a roster without the 30-year-old guys because I'm really big on that. And maybe I'll get a chance to throw that out there to Kurt and see if that has any weight. I don't know. And then I did a roster with the 30-year-old guys.
Right.
So let's kind of go. I'll use that as the real because I'm realistic. I know that if LeBron says I'm in, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So let's go kind of with your roster. How did you break it up first off? Because it can be broken up in a couple different ways.
Well, I didn't really break it up. I looked at it as who did I want to make the team, honestly. If I was making the team, who would I want on my team?
Purely want.
Right.
All right, so let's go.
My 12 guys would end up being Andre Drummond.
Do you want to break them up into guards, wings, or centers, or you just got them
I'm just gonna throw them out.
All right, let's go.
So we got Andre Drummond.
Okay.
Kevin Durant.
Okay.
The $200 million man, James Harden.
Okay.
Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Klay Thompson, and Russ Westbrook. What else am I missing? And let's see. Draymond Green is a guy that is my sleeper pick to put him on the team. DeMarcus Cousins, Steph Curry, and Anthony Davis.
Okay, so I'm not. I'll tell you now. I told you yesterday. I'm not a fan of Dre Green. Not a fan of Drummond.
But Drummond's eventually going to be on the team.
He will eventually be there. He's only 21. I know he'll be there, but not yet, in my opinion. And then I think there was a Klay Thompson sighting in there as well.
Yeah, but you need a 3-point shooter. They've got some guys on the roster I just put together. There are guys that are 3-point shooters. Obviously Steph, but you need another guy who can really, truly space the floor. When you talk about international game, you think about bigs who can space the floor, but it's just a floor spaced type of game. So you need somebody who can knock down threes. You have to have that. I guarantee. Listen, even though he makes it on my list, I almost guarantee he makes it on the actual roster.
All right. Okay. So my list, and once again, I'm going with who I think will be chosen, which does include the 30-plus-year-old guys.
Right.
I'm going to start with the guards. I broke them up into guards, the front court, and then the wings. The guards, and this is a great group. Seth Curry, Russ Westbrook, James Harden, Chris Paul.
Right.
I'm leaving out Kyrie Irving, which controversial, but
You can never. Coach K would never. Never.
Right. Well, okay. So if it came down to, let's say, those 4 guys versus Kyrie, who's the odd man out? If you look at my scenario, who's the odd man out?
Okay.
If you can only take 4, and you say Kyrie Irving, who comes out?
Who comes out?
Curry, Westbrook, Harden, or Paul? Who comes out? If you stick in Kyrie. Yeah,
that's tough.
Okay. All right, that's what I thought.
But listen, good and well, Kyrie's not the odd man out.
Look, Kyrie only played 9 games for him at Duke. Didn't take him anywhere.
But hold on. Coach K could look at it and say, yeah, he only played 9 games for me at Duke. I wish he would have played more. So that's why I constantly want to make sure I'm coaching him at every turn that I can.
Let me keep moving here. My front court, Anthony Davis, Kevin Love, Blake Griffin, who you conveniently left off, along with Kevin Love.
Look, okay, I'll tell you like this. I'm more than sure Kevin Love and Blake Griffin will make the actual roster. What I told you was the guys that I wanted to make the roster. Wanted is the key word.
Did you have Fareed on that on your list? No,
he was a guy that I would push hard for. Because you know what? He played really well last time around. Right. Really well.
Now, the one omission is Boogie Cousins, and if on my no 30-year-old an older group, Boogie was there.
Okay.
And
Boogie's birthday's today.
Happy birthday to Boogie Cousins out there. If anyone knows him, send him a shout out. Tell him to follow us on Twitter at BTA Hoops.
I'm sure.
And I would want you to be on the roster, Boogie Cousins. So you let him know that.
Yeah, Boogie's Bryan on my roster all day long.
Yeah, but I think if Love and Griffin and Anthony Davis are there. Now, I say that because here's my wings. My wings, once again, with the 30-year-old guys.
Right.
LeBron and Carmelo,
right.
Of course.
Yeah.
Durant.
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going Paul George. And I tell you this, and I know Klay Thompson, Paul George, I think would be a toss-up for a lot of people. I know Klay Thompson is the hot, sexy selection right now. But I think George was going to make that world championship roster team easily. And I think Paul George was a better defender. Klay Thompson has come around as a good defender now.
Right.
But then, 2 years ago?
Right.
Or a year and a half ago?
Paul George, 18 months ago,
exactly.
one of the best two-way players in the league.
NBA player, exactly. Right. Okay,
right.
So
if he wants to play, if he feels good about it, and I think he shouldn't play, but if he wants to, I think he makes the roster.
I think a lot will.
As long as he comes out and he can show he can at least shoot the three and space the floor, because I don't think there's question and he can defend.
So some of the names that you miss out are Rudy Gay, which
Coach K apparently loves his versatility. Yep. Mm-hmm. So.
And I'm trying to look here. Who else is a controversial? The interesting thing on the guards. The Bradley Beal, well, not Bradley Beal, but the John Wall scenario. But I think John Wall's kind of on the outside.
He is.
Looking in.
Yeah, he is. And it's kind of a shame because I wouldn't mind seeing him play in an open court style.
Yeah. All right. So when we come back after the break, we're going to talk to Kurt Helin, the blogger-in-chief, as he's called, of ProBasketballTalk.com. He's going to set us straight not only on our USA basketball thoughts, but also we'll get into a little bit about the NBA schedule and some other news and notes. You're listening to Beyond the Arc, presented by TNT Elite Hoops on the iHeartRadio network.
Welcome back to the show that eats, sleeps, and breathes the hardwood. Beyond the Arc, presented by TNT Elite Hoops.
What are you doing?
I'm doing two things.
What?
I'm making them mad. Most guys don't play good when they're mad.
Basketball. Look, you know you're embarrassing me. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing I'm doing.
I only have 4 words for you. White men can't jump.
Come on.
Welcome back to Beyond the Arc, presented by TNT Elite Hoops on the iHeartRadio network. Take the first step in improving your basketball game by visiting TNTEliteHoops.com. Trainers Jared Triton and Nick Trapp have a combined 16 years of elite training experience, utilizing some of the best training equipment in the industry. From beginners to pros, boys or girls, TNT Elite Hoops will focus on improving your skills and taking your basketball goals to new levels. Make your game better today, not tomorrow. My name is Bryan Fulford, joined by my partner in the backcourt, Steve Barnhart, HardwoodHoopsCentral.com.
Yes, sir.
And it's our pleasure to welcome in from ProBasketballTalk.com, Kurt Helin, who is the blogger-in-chief of Pro Basketball Talk on NBCSports.com. Kurt, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. You know, things have slowed down a little bit. July gets a little crazy, but this is, we all get a little bit of vacation eventually, right?
Hey, Kurt, real quick, did you give yourself that blogger-in-chief title?
You know, it's funny. I stole that from my NBC Sports baseball colleague, Frank Calcaterra, who created that for his role at Hardball Talk, the baseball sister site of ours. And I'm like, I just texted him one day. I'm like, can I steal that? Because I just love that. So
Right. No, good stuff. All right. So if you guys haven't been checking out ProBasketballTalk.com, Kurt's got been dropping some great nuggets, some great stories and info, not only on just USA basketball, the NBA schedule. So perfect timing. As you know, we've talked a little bit about USA basketball in the opening segment. So Kurt, we'll get right into it. And my first question has to do with LeBron James. We know he's a 3-time champion, best player in the world, even been called the leader of this team by Coach K, or maybe just a leader. I don't recall the exact quote. Would there be any significant loss for USA if LeBron decided not to play in Rio?
I don't think so, just because we're so deep. I mean, oh no, LeBron can't play. We're just going to have to go with Kevin Durant and Blake Griffin and Chris Paul and Kevin Love. And we're so far ahead of the rest of the world in terms of depth of talent. And look, that's not to say countries like Spain and some of these can't give us some trouble, but we're so far ahead in just terms of depth of talent that even losing somebody like LeBron doesn't set us back that much. And by the way, my guess is he doesn't play. Look, and I wrote about this, if we're going to assume that the Cavaliers make the finals next year, I mean, I think we can agree they're the class of the East. They're the team to beat.
Right.
If they make the finals, that's 6 straight finals he's gone to.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's playing deep into the summer a lot of times, and there's an Olympics. He's already done one Olympics in the middle of that. I just don't know if he's going to do another one. I know the guys at Nike would love him to. I mean, that's such a great marketing platform, but I got a feeling he's going to take it off, and it doesn't faze us that much. Kevin Durant becomes your leader, and he's pretty good.
So, okay, going with that, and I'm of that thought as well. Well, really, mine is different. It's really more so based on an age limit thing that I have. But anyway, we understand that Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, and LeBron, great friends. Is it fair to sort of assume that if LeBron is out, those guys would probably be out too, and vice versa? If LeBron goes in, those guys would say, hey, we'll go in too.
Chris Paul really has the trust of Coach K, and it's something when you talk to Coach K in Vegas at these type of events. I think any coach who has been coaching Chris Paul would be like, I really like him. He's a floor general. He's me on the floor. If you remember the 2008 game, Kobe gets a lot of credit for taking over at the end and his play against Spain, but Chris Paul owned that second half. He completely he didn't put up massive numbers, but he controlled the flow of the second half of that gold medal game. He is such a coach on the floor. He is the best floor general out there. If he wants the spot, obviously he gets it. He might, he's another guy who depends on how far the Clippers go and how he's feeling. Carmelo's a different story. Guys, I'm not sold Carmelo makes the team if he wants to go.
Thank you.
I am. Look, he gets used by Coach K as frankly as the Knicks should use him more as kind of a stretch four, as a small four. Anthony Davis is going to start at center. We are so loaded with better players at the four in terms of Blake Griffin and all these other guys who are going to be in that slot. I put together our list, and I figured you're going to have Anthony Davis at the 5. You're going to have DeMarcus Cousins. You need one genuinely true big as his backup. Then you've got guys like Dwight Howard. I would rather have in front of Carmelo. Like I said, Blake Griffin, some other guys. Just in terms of, for all of Dwight Howard's flaws, the guy protects the paint and runs the floor, and that's all you got to do with international ball.
He does. You're right.
Good point.
So it's going to be. He is really going to be a bubble call. Like, does he make it? Because he's played great internationally, but I don't know that we don't have better guys than him right now.
Kurt, I got a 2-part question for you in regards to the roster. So, first part of the question is, who on Team USA deserves to make the roster the most, but probably won't, and who on the roster could make it and surprise some people when he does?
Again, it's so hard to predict a year out, just because injuries, and obviously will start to change that. But the other thing that they're really good about is fit. I mean, they are more concerned with, if you look at the guys from 2012 and the Andre Iguodala's of the world, some blue guys are on there. Now, I've got my team loaded with some pretty... I've got Kawhi Leonard as your glue guy, essentially. Coach K loves to have that one starting wing, and Kobe did it in 2008, where they don't worry about the offense, just go lock down the other team's best player. Because, again, outside of Spain and France, every other team we're ever going to play in this international kind of tournament has one elite NBA, a guy who could be a quality NBA player to a very, great NBA player. And that's it. And they don't have the depth that we have. So you say, hey, go lock that guy down. then they don't have other options. There's only a couple teams in the world that can start to get past that. And so I think the guy who becomes key are the guys who can, Anthony Davis, who can protect the rim, and somebody like Kawhi Leonard, who kind of people forget about, but he's going to be so central to what they do on Team USA in terms of just taking the other team out of the rhythm, forcing turnovers, forcing rush shots, and then they can get out and run off that.
Kurt, kind of feeding off that, is the Team USA roster more likely to have a young, emerging talent highlight the roster, or the older, experienced guys? Just in your estimation, if you were picturing the roster, are you thinking more of a younger, talented roster, or are you looking at more older, experienced guys that Coach K trusts?
I think he'd like to do a mix, but I mean, let's be honest. Our best player very well could be Anthony Davis, and he's on the young side. He's going to be 22 when the Olympics happen. I'd have to look at his exact birthday, but he's he's obviously young and emerging. But I talked about a guy who's arguably the third best player in the NBA right now, depending on how you want to rank guys. But certainly in the top five, and an elite player still on the rise. Plus, built for international ball, can knock down the outside shot, runs the floor, stronger than you think, protects the rim inside, just does all this stuff. So I think he's so central. And Coach K talked about this before last year's tournament. He goes, everybody was talking about, oh my gosh, all these bigs aren't showing up. Dwight Howard wasn't going to play, and all these guys weren't going to play. And he's like, dude, nobody has Anthony Davis. Like, other countries do not have a guy like this. You don't realize how special he is in this kind of stage. And so, I honestly, he's the face of USA basketball. Plus, he's less phased by this. Remember, he was under Kobe and LeBron's wing 4 years ago in London.
That's true.
I mean, just out of college, he picked up a gold medal. He's been on the stage with it.
All right. Joining us on the show is Kurt Helin from ProBasketballTalk.com. And so, okay, so Kurt, your locks, your locks are LeBron, KD, Anthony Davis, Russ Westbrook, Harden, and Curry. I think the most interesting sort of roster debate that anyone can have is the guards, because you've got 3 to 4 MVP caliber guys. You've got the 4 guys that are within the ages of 23 and 26. Yeah. You've obviously gone with Westbrook, Harden, Curry. You've kind of left it open out there where you've got Chris Paul or Kyrie. And then you've got a guy like John Wall, who I don't know what John Wall might do in this minicamp, what John Wall might do during the season, but he can certainly play his way into the conversation.
Oh, yeah. I think people sleep on just how good John Wall is.
Yeah.
I don't
agree.
I don't want to do that. And the funny thing is, like, now we're leaving guys like, and I wrote about this, Damian Lillard's not even in this discussion.
Right.
And he's Damian Lillard, man.
Well, Kurt, how much did his recent comment about, not wanting to show up because, he's been cut in the past, how much did that, do you think, it hurt his chances?
I don't know that it helps, but I don't know if it hurts as much as his defense compared to the other guys we've been talking about.
Okay. I'm of the mindset that he sounded really bitter, and it kind of hurts his chances.
I don't think that helps his cause, but at the end of the day, if I'm Coach K and I'm looking at who I'm going to bring in as the fourth guard, and again, it depends on, look, I have Westbrook as a lock. That's, I suppose, up for debate, but he is such a physical freak of nature, and he is the kind of guy that we can roll out there as a sixth man, essentially.
Agreed.
No other team in the world comes close to having an athlete like that, like on their bench. So that's the kind of guy I think you roll out. But if Coach K's thinking about defense, he might give Wall. I mean, that's where, like, I'd like to have a defensive stopper come in. Wall's long and fast and creates steals and does all that stuff, and then does great things he's at his best in the open court. So.
And the game's played in the open court,
he really could play his way into it. That's the thing. Like you said, I think point guard is most interesting just because I could knock the top 3 guys off that list. We could say, hey, Curry, Westbrook, and Chris Paul decide not to go, and we only got to go with Wall and Kyrie Irving and James Harden. It's just ridiculous.
One more quick question about USA before we move into a little bit about the NBA schedule. This is probably Coach K's last run. Who are the likely successors after 2016?
You hear 2 names, Greg Popovich and Doc Rivers.
Oh, wow.
It's a tough call in this sense. You need and this is what Coach K has been great about, you need a coach that guys want to play for, who has the gravitas and the ability and just the stature to rise above the petty agent shoe company crap. And look, when we talk about guys like Westbrook making it over Wall, Nike plays a role. Let's not kid ourselves here. But you need a coach who can get above that, and there are only a handful of those guys will do a play for like that. Popovich is obviously at the top of that list. A former, by the way, Air Force guy. Like, if you want to question it, he's got to patch up a relationship a little bit with Jerry Colangelo, but he, to me, is the premier choice. And can't you see him doing this? Like, he's going to coach another couple years with the Spurs,
right? And
then transition out of that and just become the full-time USA basketball coach.
Yeah,
and
I
then
can see that.
And drink a lovely Pinot when he's not doing that. I mean, that's a great transition for him.
Right. Joining us is Kurt Helin from ProBasketballTalk.com. Okay, quickly into the NBA schedule, which was released last night, and I think the big headline was the reduction in the 4 games in 5 nights, and Adam Silver is really being applauded, it seems, for really reducing, I think, that number almost by like 61% or something like that.
61%, yeah.
Right. And notice that one of the teams that did not have any of those 4 games in 5 nights was the San Antonio Spurs. And I'm curious, do you kind of think that was done to sort of, send a message about San Antonio's whole resting of guys thing, or was it really more creating a competitive environment on a nightly basis?
I think Adam Silver is a numbers guy in a way Stern was not. I mean, he's a little more of an accountant, classic CEO kind of guy. And you cannot deny the data that says that guys don't play as well on the second night of a back-to-back, and it gets ugly, 4 nights and 5 days, and that the injuries we talked about and we saw so much of last year, there are always the traumatic ones, but the Achilles are cumulative. Like, some of the stuff we've seen are just from the long wear and tear on guys. And so he gets it, and I think that he's, as much as anything else about validating Popovich or doing anything, I think he just realizes all those guys taking all those nights off is bad for business. I mean, you're in Orlando, you're a Blake Griffin fan, and you buy tickets to go see Griffin and the Clippers, and it's not, there are affordable seats in Orlando, but it's just not cheap to go to an NBA game. And it's the second night of a back-to-back, and the Clippers decide to rest Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. Well,
right.
That's just not good for business. And I think that's ultimately what they've got to get past. You're never going to get completely past it without shortening the season. I mean, which is just not it's just not going to happen. It's not you're not going to get there. But I think next year, look, they reduced the number this year, and next year you're going to see them extend the season by a week at the front end, and then that extra play time will let them eliminate a lot more of these.
Hooray. Fewer preseason games. Hooray, hooray, hooray. All right, Kurt, we want to get you out of here on this, and we want to remind everyone, ProBasketballTalk.com, plenty of great stories and info by Kurt and the other guys over there on the schedule and USA Basketball. Of course, the DeAndre Jordan first trip to Dallas and LaMarcus Aldridge first return to Portland are sort of the games people are kind of spotlighting. But is there a game outside of that sort of features what I might call a bad blood sort of, how is the reaction going to be kind of game that you are most eager to see outside of those main 2?
You know what game series I want to start watching, because I think that there's brewing bad blood. Well, look, let's be honest. Everybody hates the Clippers right now. It's easy to hate the Clippers right now.
Hating the Clippers sounds odd, This sounds odd.
It does in a historical perspective, but they're not a likable team. But beyond that, they have a real rivalry, I think, with Houston. I mean, that series, the way how it went wrong for them in that series, mostly because they were worn down. They didn't have any depth, and they got worn down. That was such a brutal series with the Spurs beforehand, and they just wore down. That's Chris Paul, we were talking about. You will not find a more competitive guy in the league than him, and it just sits wrong. I'll just tell you firsthand, this really bothers him.
Nice.
That's going to be a nasty little series of games. I know there's one in March. There's a couple of. I just can't remember the dates off the top of my head.
Right.
There's 4 of them. find them. Those are going to be fun ones. Those two teams aren't really going to like each other, and they're both legitimate contenders. So it's going to be fun when they get together.
Definitely. All right. Well, Kurt, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Make sure you guys follow Kurt on Twitter. It's at Basketball Talk. And, of course, make sure you go to probasketballtalk.com or probasketballtalk.nbcsports.com and follow Kurt and the rest of the team over at Pro Basketball Talk. Can't get that out. Kurt, thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks, Kurt.
Hey, anytime, my man.
All right, sounds good. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome back to the show featuring two hoops junkies who need to work on their free throws. Beyond the Arc, presented by TNT Elite Hoops. Visit TNTEliteHoops.com to make your hoops game better today.
Welcome back to Beyond the Arc, presented by TNT Elite Hoops. If you're looking to show your individuality and show everyone what you stand for, let iSlide do the talking for you. iSlide is a premium custom athletic slide company that offers one-of-a-kind, comfortable, customized slides that allow you to put your image or artwork on the slide. You can even design a customized slide featuring your favorite NBA team. Visit iSlideUSA.com now to check out all of the variations and design styles that you can create from your own laptop or PC. That's iSlideUSA.com. And for listeners of this show, Beyond the Arc, use promo code BTA15, that's BTA15, and receive 15% off your order. Again, use promo code BTA15 on iSlideUSA.com and stand in what you stand for with iSlide. Bryan Fulford here, joined by Steve Barnhart, Hardwood Hoop Central, as we get ready to wrap it up. All right, so what do we got, Steve, as we're coming down to the finish?
It's up to you.
Man, so much left. Got to thank Kurt Helin. Lots of good stuff. I know we've got some news nuggets scheduled. Let's go right into those. Let's go right into those nuggets. Let's get into nuggets. Make sure to check out our podcast, because I know we can go on and talk about the schedule. There's plenty of stuff to talk about there. Yeah, mm-hmm. and maybe even get into a little more of the USA basketball discussion. So we want to make sure to do that. All right. And you got to help me out here, Steve, as I'm trying to figure out. All right. So where are we going? You lead it off. We're going to sound off in the nuggets in the final segment.
Well, how about this? We'll get Mike in, the guy, our producer behind the glass. We'll get him in. He'll read us off some questions, and we'll sound off. How about that?
Fire away, Mike.
Fire away. Here you go. Question number 1. Can recent success from Under Armour in the youth basketball circuit spark up a new sneaker war between Nike and Under Armour?
He has a great speaking voice, by the way.
I love it.
Very good.
All right. So look, you break it down, because a lot of people don't know what sort of transpired over just the last month.
Okay. So basically, what you're looking at over the last month, Under Armour has not only basically they have become the junior basketball and the NBA Combine official apparel provider.
Sponsor, right.
And, of course, they've got the Elite 24 coming up, which is their basically their elite all-star game at the end of the season, at the end of the AAU season. Coming from a scout's perspective, and whenever I talk to other scouts, they've been around different circuits, they'll tell you that Under Armour is making strong headway in the youth basketball circuit. So Nike understanding that, Nike seeing that, they say, okay, well, we don't necessarily want a lot of our top guys putting on your stuff, putting on your items to play in your all-star event. We've got to respond. So they come up with what they're now calling the trip. And they're going to take they're going to
it's a trip is what it is.
Right. They're going to put together what's called an EYBL select roster, EYBL being the Elite Youth Basketball League select roster. And so they're going to take 12 guys over to the Bahamas, and they're going to play the Bahamian national team.
top guys, top level recruits, Harry Giles, Jason Tatum.
Right.
Guys who were all set, ready to go play in this Elite 24 event a year ago.
Some of them, correct.
Right.
So, on Nike's behalf, it's like, okay, we don't want guys like Harry Giles putting on Under Armour stuff to play in an all-star event. We don't even want that to be a possibility. So let's give them a free vacation, allow them to go play a national team, and they'll have an opportunity to still wear Nike apparel, and they have that opportunity.
So at what point does it become too much? At what point does the NCAA either say, hey, I'm just going to completely turn the other way and just let you guys do whatever the heck you want to do, right, or do they say, wow, you're paying for all expenses paid trips to the Bahamas. Mm-hmm. We're loading you up in tons of gear,
right,
tons of shoes, clothing, which, be real. If these guys wanted to sell this stuff, there's some friends that would buy this stuff easily.
Well, I see kids all the time on Instagram. They've got extra shoes laying around.
So, at what point, but when it comes down to the NCAA cracking down on me or another booster paying for a kid's meal, right, all of a sudden it's an issue. I don't know. At this point.
So what's your beef?
Look, the beef,
in a very short.
I don't know. There's no short answer. So to answer the question, I don't know. Yes.
Here's my thing. When you talk about a shoe war typically is over a specific prospect. If you think about the 30 for 30 that was done featuring Sonny Vaccaro, it usually centered around a top-level prospect or prospects. In this case, I just think it's Under Armour and Nike saying, we're battling it out on the youth grassroots circuit to make sure that we establish our position as the elite grassroots shoe company.
But it's all the way from the sponsoring and the advertising from the top. Look, right, Nike is now going to be supplying NBA jerseys. Adidas got out of it, so then right, Adidas throws a ton of money at James Harden.
Right.
Under Armour is now in. So it's all the sponsorship dollars that are being thrown out at the top, at the highest level, and now it's all the way down to the events and the teams. There's more teams, more kids. It's great.
Suffice it to say this, the shoe companies are more involved and have more of an impact than they ever have.
Look, when is Puma going to step up and get back in the game?
Puma, really? Well, then why don't we bring back Fila?
Them too. Look.
Anyways,
all right.
My question too, sir.
Well, you mentioned Harry Giles. Let's ask this one. Does the addition of number 1 rated Harry Giles ensure that Oak Hill goes undefeated?
All right. So quickly, Giles is transferring from his school in North Carolina to go to Oak Hill. Wesleyan Christian to go to Oak Hill. Oak Hill, traditional powerhouse.
Right.
Guys like Carmelo,
Rajon Rondo, Ron Mercer, Brandon Jennings, Jerry Stackhouse, even Kevin Durant. This will be the first number 1 overall rated player, though, that Steve Smith has actually had on his roster. And then the rest of their roster is just stacked. Their 2017 guards, Matt Coleman, Lindell Wigington, Tyshawn Alexander, are talented. And then they've got 2 Arlington Country Day, which is a prep school here in Florida, in Jacksonville, Florida. 2 transfers going over to that school, Oak Hill. 2016 shooting guard Mario Kegler and 2018 big man Kenneth Nwamba, who's basically rated as a top 10 prospect. And then you've got different guys like Braxton Blackwell, Joe Hampton. Their lineup from top to bottom is stacked. You add Harry Giles into that, and they definitely could go undefeated.
I'm just gonna go no. Look, it's a long season.
That's the easy way.
No, it's the easy way, right?
It's the tiger of the field argument.
Last year they went undefeated going into the final game of the year against Montverde,
right?
And they lost.
Right.
So I don't know if it ensures. They will probably have a long run into the tournament that's at the end of the year, that Dick's National Tournament, and they'll have an opportunity. So we'll see. But I ensure, who knows? Okay, well, it's been a long show. Doesn't seem like it's been long enough. We want to thank Kurt Helin from Pro Basketball Talk for joining us. Make sure to follow Kurt on Twitter at Basketball Talk. Steve, quickly, they can follow you on Twitter at
HW Hoop Central.
And you can follow me at DRB365. Please follow us, our show Twitter feed at BTA Hoops. On Facebook, you can catch us Beyond the Arc podcast.
Correct.
Let us know your thoughts on today's segment and your USA roster of 12. That's going to be it for this show. We want to thank you for listening. For Steve, I'm Bryan. You've been listening to Beyond the Arc.